So you have some exposure with JavaScript where you played with Jasmine to create some test cases and then you wrote the functionalities. Now in Python, there's a testing framework called unit test that we want you to use. So you go ahead and import it, and then you do need this in order for unit tests to run. But basically what I have over here is I have a function called reverse array. And this is my class where I have the two test cases, test 1, test 2, where I say, hey, I really want to assert equal. So it basically means that I'm asserting that this one equals this, right? Another way to read it is this should really return this. Or assert that this value equals that, right? Because if I reverse array and pass 1 to 3, I should expect 3 to 1. If I reverse array 5, 1, 2, 3, I should expect 3 to 1, 5. So what you do is before you write any of the functionalities in the reverse array or any of the features, then you write the test cases first, and then also here pass is something new that you may not have seen. And pass statement in Python is again when you don't want to do anything, but a statement is required syntactically. Because if I don't have anything here, Python is going to give me an error because it's expecting something inside that function. Well, I don't want to do anything yet. I just want I want Python not to do anything. So go ahead and read this sentence, and that's what pass does. So this comes in handy when I do TDD because I can just write a function name pass, write my test cases, and if I might write my test cases and then run the code, you will see that it fails, right? Because I didn't write the functionality. So this is important that you create just an empty function or empty feature, write the test cases, make sure that the test failed, and then once that is done, then you add the features here and you let the function pass. So here I implemented the functionality. Once you write out the features, then you can run the test codes again, and you will see that now it ran the test successfully. So fail to fail. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, this one. Let's see. Running setup. Yeah, so that was that. Yeah, that was the previous code. So let me go ahead. You can see that when I ran it, it ran to test just fine. So that's important. There are two methods that you may not have seen. Within unit tests, it comes with setup method and teardown method. So if there is any task that you want the computer to do before it runs any of the test cases, you put it in the setup method. If there is anything you want it to do after it ran the test cases, then you put that in the teardown method over here. You haven't done too much of the database operation, but if you want, let's say you build some test cases and you want to see if it inserts certain records in the database, well, you can do that, and then maybe once you're done, that you can tear down, and you can remove those things from the database. If you have some test cases for object-oriented programming, some classes, maybe in the setup is when you can create an instance of that class and then use these tests to see if the instance is doing what it's supposed to do. So go ahead and play around with this, and then if you have another function, you don't have to create another file. You can say just create another function, and then if you want to build another test case, then basically you just go ahead and replicate and create another class for the second function that you want to test, right? And so you can say, for example, another function test, and then this is where you can put some of the codes for the test cases, right? So I can say another function, whatever I pass, like 1, 2, 3, maybe this needs to return whatever. So that's how it works. So go ahead and play around with it. Unit test is very straightforward, and they have great documentations. The one that you will be using the most is the assert equal, but there are other methods that you can use, such as assert not equal, assert true, assert false, assert is, and you can go through. But the one that you will probably use the most right now is assert equal, where you basically see if the value A and B equals each other, right? So go ahead and read up on that. I gave some example just below the video. Where you can see how assert equal, that true is basically same as just doing that, and so forth. And then give you another example. So go ahead and play around with that. Get comfortable with TDD, and you will see this also coming up again later as you build some complex features into your application. So go ahead and have fun with TDD. TDD becomes really handy when you're joining a project that's already very complicated, that has hundreds or thousands of features that other developers already built. And if they already wrote a lot of test cases, simply by adding your features and then running the test to see if all the other tests succeeded, it gives you the peace of mind that you probably didn't break anything. So when you apply to join a large organization, they probably will want to see if you're familiar with TDD, whether you can write tests and then implement the features and then have the test pass. So it's a good practice for you to do this. But again, remember that the downside of TDD is when you don't have any features, writing things with TDD will take probably 2 to 3 times longer than just building it. So you need to find a good practice. Usually for a startup, when you're just building things, you don't want to rely too much on TDD. But later, when you join a project that's very complicated and where a single mistake can cost thousands or millions of dollars, that's when, hey, it's okay, let's slow down. I can do things 2 to 3 times slower, but let me be very careful. And that's when TDD can become really handy. But some people also can go overboard on TDD and write too many test cases. Find a good balance, go in and get some exposure, and then on some of the other assignments, you may not use TDD as much, but it's always good to know how TDD works. Okay, good luck, have fun.